So I encounter entrepreneurs every day who are looking to downsize, simplify, all that sort of stuff. And the problem is that when you are trying to solve from a state of just like cortisol, fear, scarcity, overwhelm, all that kind of stuff, you tend to make the exact opposite decision. And so we're going to give some unconventional advice today. This is what I would do if I had to start all over again. This is now my daily, all that kind of stuff. But if I needed to downsize, if my company got to a point where I was like, man, this doesn't feel like mine anymore. This is insane. I'm just trying to have some fun. If it got to that level, then this is what I do. So if you don't know who I am, welcome to the channel. My name is Colby. I have a community called Autonomy Club. It's for founders who are basically trying to simplify, who already make money, who already have amazing clients, but they want to go get more amazing clients, get rid of the ones who aren't so amazing, and actually have a bunch more flow on their calendar. And that's kind of where we're going to start, because let's picture you step into the room. This is your problem. Hey, my company is absolutely outside of my hands right now. So I kind of want to address three main things with this. Two of them are very similar. One of them is something you may have done already, have done and failed, or are curious about doing. So what's the first thing is really just your time. Okay. When it comes down to it, I think a lot of people are thinking, in fact, I hear this all the time is, oh, I need to hire somebody to buy hours back, or I am reading this book on productivity, or I need to really block my schedule into an ideal week type thing. And I find all of those fail pretty miserably because, again, they're coming from that moment of like, I need to get, instead of actually addressing the problem first. So we're going to address the problem. I call it calendar curation. This is how I've been running my calendar for 3+ years now. And just so you know, I was that person who completely burned out and felt like my business wasn't mine, getting on like 20+ meetings a week, all that kind of stuff, right? So we're going to do calendar curation. And then we're going to just kind of like dissect your actual meetings as well. So one big thing for me was I had way too many meetings going on. Okay. So we'll do that first. We can dive in with that. The next one, we're going to talk about VAs a little bit. And then the final one, we're going to add some flow. All right. So let's actually dive into calendar curation. What calendar curation is really simple. I use Google Calendar. And so when you go into your Google Calendar, you can go into create an event, right? When you create an event, there's color coding in there. You can actually assign tags via colors to this. So here's how I run it. And we're going to go from the bottom up. Typically in Google Calendar, you're going to see blue as kind of the default color. If yours isn't, that's totally fine. But I have blue keep my meetings, okay? And the reason for that is because it'll just automatically do that. Now, for the name of the game, we don't want that many meetings. If you can help it, most people don't want to be in just back-to-back meeting, back-to-back meeting, back-to-back meeting, because if you're thinking about downsizing, I would honestly say your biggest issue right now is that you are giving your time to other people, right? And so how much time are you giving away? How valuable is that time? That's what this is going to solve. Green is just going to be personal time. Okay. So personal time means that you are taking that for yourself. It doesn't necessarily make you money, but I see personal time very much so as kind of a business move, because I might play video games, or I might go for a walk, or every Thursday, my wife and I, because she has that day off, are more or less like just getting coffee in the morning, hanging out, catching up with each other, because we have 3 young kids and we don't really have that much uninterrupted conversation. So we prioritize that, right? Yellow, these are going to be the needle movers. And what needle movers are is very clearly, like for instance, today for me is all blocked in flow. I'm recording this video. I'll probably record several videos today. Videos are needle movers to me because I very much believe in big ideas turn into actual like indoctrinating people into my world. And if I can indoctrinate people into my world, chances are they're going to be a good fit for my offer, right? So creating content would be considered a needle mover. I see the whole day as flow because once my energy runs, then I'm done, right? I do not create content if my energy is low, because the output of that is going to be terrible and the response is going to be terrible. Energy is just if you think it's woo-woo, create 2 pieces of content, right? One where you're completely drained and one where you're lit on fire. See which one performs better, right? So red, we can look at tasks if we want to get a little bit more straightforward. Stuff you hate, but you need to do, right? So there are a handful of red items in my calendar, right? And when I started, I was more or less would have red and blue was probably about 80% of my week, right? If you just looked at my week. Now, the ultimate goal is white space, blank space, whatever you want to call it, right? But chances are, if you were to go into your calendar right now and you looked at the last 2 weeks and you assigned each event that you actually had in that calendar by red, blue, yellow, and green, you're going to have around 80% red and blue, if not more so, right? And then when you're in that state, again, you want to downsize, you need to identify if you actually have the capacity right now to do it. And you cannot do it if you don't know where your time is going. All right. So green and yellow, that's going to be the 20%. The whole point of this exercise is to reverse it. If you can identify the problem, then you can start getting rid of things. Now, a big one of those is meetings, right? So how do you actually get rid of meetings? We're going to skip the VA bit right now, and we're going to go into meetings. Really, really simple criteria. Again, look at the last 2 weeks in your actual calendar. And then from there, go ahead and check every single meeting for 3 things. So every single meeting you have, you want to do this based on energy. After that meeting, did my energy grow? Did my energy stay neutral? Or did my energy drain? Right. So let's say you get on a meeting with a high maintenance client. Of course, your energy is going to be drained at the end. Many times during the meeting, you're going to be like, why the hell am I here right now? That would be a fantastic example of a meeting that drains. Now, before you start yelling at me through the screen and saying, I can't not have a meeting with a client, they're going to get rid of me, that sort of stuff. Well, they're a low paying, high maintenance client. You can fill that space with a high paying, low maintenance client if you believe it's possible, right? But the thing that's going to prevent you from doing that is holding on to that meeting. It sucks. Nothing I'm saying is actually fun. Nothing I'm saying is easy, right? But it's actually incredibly simple and straightforward. If you got rid of all of the meetings that drained you, and in an elite way, if you got rid of all the meetings that left you neutral as well, and only kept these, you would actually grow your business faster. You would have less meetings and you would get better. You would do less and have more, right? So I did this. I sent one email. Now mine was out of desperation because I had just burnt out. But like I said, I was averaging 20 hours a week in meetings when I was working at a global top 1,000 digital marketing agency that I helped build. And with one email out of desperation, I'm like, I'm only taking meetings on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. If you send me an invite for a meeting outside of those times, I'm going to politely decline. Nobody complained. Everyone was cool with that. And I went down from 20 meetings a week to basically 2, maybe 3 meetings a week, right? So if you don't think it's possible, living proof. And just so you know, the year I did that, we went from 1 million to 2.5 million when it took us 6 years to hit 1 million a year. It only took us 12 months to go from 1 to 2.5 million, and we only added 10 clients. My head was clear. After I got rid of the meetings first, I had a lot of big ideas, right? Those big ideas turned into cash. So just keep that in mind, that when it comes down to it, you think this whole issue with I need to downsize, I need to hire, I need to let go of things, I need to change my offer, I need to scrap all this stuff. It's not necessarily true. The first thing, the only thing that should take precedence over everything else is the one thing that we can only lose, right? And that's time. And so if you don't control your personal time as the founder, as the leader, as the business owner, then it's all going to trickle down into nobody else's either, right? So you have to take courage. You have to really own your time. This is the best mechanism. Like I said, I've been using it for 3 years. Every single client I've ever worked with, for the most part, is at least aware of this. Most of them are using it. And by simply identifying, oh, this is something I don't want to do but have to do. This is a needle mover. This is just for fun. This is a meeting. By simply having those color-coded in your calendar, you can actually start controlling the dials a little bit. Because when every single thing is the exact same color, it all looks the same in terms of value, right? So lunch looks the same as a sales call, looks the same as time with your kids. And you know it's not the same. So start color coding. All right, we're going to hop into the next one. Here's the deal. Whether you're making a ton of money right now, whether your margins are good, whether you feel scarce, whether you feel abundant, it doesn't matter. If you can get a VA into your business, a good one, you will absolutely hit the next level, right? So I'm going to help you find a good VA. First of all, full training on this. I actually teach it to all my clients. I call it the life-changing VA protocol, which gives you a life-changing VA in 30 days. I've had my virtual assistant now for over a year. She is at the point where she's running not only my business calendar, she's running my personal calendar. She's checking in with all my clients and monthlies and weeklies and all that sort of stuff. She's in every single messaging that I have with my clients, we do through WhatsApp in school, right? So she's on top of it. She saves me so much time. And the reason for it is if you don't have a VA, again, I stress a good one, and the protocol in the description will help you get a good one pretty much guaranteed. But if you don't have a VA, you stay low leverage. Because this is the classic, like, I need to do it right. Right. And that right there is keeping you poor. It's keeping you time poor. It's keeping you cash poor. It's keeping you energy poor. If you think, oh, I have these people, or I know I could outsource that, or anything along those lines, but you say, it's just easier if I do it, that right there is keeping you poor. And I suffer from that a ton, right, in the past. Now I don't. And so the whole point of getting a VA in, it's a day one hire, whether you're making money or not. If you just started a business, you don't even have an offer yet, I would have you have a VA if you're serious about it. If you're just like, hey, how do I get rich in 3 weeks or whatever, and then peace out, don't get a VA. It's not for you. If you are trying to build a movement, whether you have just started, are 10 years deep, or somewhere in between, a VA is a non-negotiable, because otherwise you are doing low leverage things, right? If something goes wrong in my business that I am well beyond mastery for, I can teach that. And so a VA's whole point is to keep you into mastery discovery. Because if you are not discovering new things to master, then you are stuck in things you've already mastered. Past tense, we don't want that. We want you to keep growing, right? So again, I can't even get even deeper with this. Just check out the protocol if you need a VA. I'm just saying, like, if you have had a VA and it's been a tough experience, this protocol kills that. If you have never had a VA and you're like, I can't afford one, my VA started at $4 an hour for 10 hours a week. You can afford one, right? Like, there are amazing people out there. You just don't know how to find the right ones. The protocol solves that. All right. The last one is really straightforward, and I need to take a sip of coffee for this one, because most people they say they want it, but they don't take the steps to do it. So let me outline the steps. I genuinely believe the only two things you need in business to be successful on a long enough timeline are flow and resilience. I can't give you resilience. Resilience is, failed business. Resilience is, personal trouble and battling through it. It's standing up when you've fallen down. Okay. So this is resilience. You have to get that on your own, right? Most people don't know I've had a couple of failed businesses. Most people don't know that I've burned out a handful of times. Like, these are things that have made me stronger and keep coming back and doing it differently, right? So resilience is something you have to own. Flow is something you can get. And I'm going to show you exactly how I've done this. And it's a really simple model. Not only do I see flow as needle moving time, so it's yellow on my calendar, and I'm averaging currently about 27 hours a week into flow, right? What I will say is that it stems from this one idea, and I'm stealing this from Dan Coe. I'm probably paraphrasing it a little bit. It's been so long in my mind, I can't even remember exactly how he worded it, but it's really simple. We're going to put in mornings, afternoons, and evenings. If you can master this, you can master flow. I want to keep a really very good expectation for this, though, is I went all in on this, and it took me 6 weeks to feel like I was in flow. Okay, so what are you hearing? That's 6 weeks of feeling like I'm stumbling, screwing this up, this isn't working, all that sort of stuff, and pushing through it to finally get flow. And now I'm in flow 20 hours a week, right? That means no cell phone in the room. I'm not answering any messages. I'm not being reactive to any clients. None of that stuff. I'm literally just thinking, what are my big ideas? How can I cultivate those big ideas into an offer, into messaging, into a deeper conversation with somebody? This is flow. What I'm doing right now is flow. I'm talking to you through this camera, right? So it comes from this idea. This idea changed my life. And so thank you, Dan Coe. But to get into flow and make it a daily practice, something consistent for you, Mornings are for creating. All right. Afternoons are for doing, and evenings are for recharging. And if you want to throw another thing on there, I would say planning. Because one of the worst things you can do working bottom up, one of the worst things you can do is wake up every day and be like, what am I going to do today? Right. So using your evening to even just think of one thing that you're going to attack the following day is going to be huge. But let's talk about this one, because this is the unconventional advice. This is the thing that people just, they love what I say, but they're sidebar thinking I'm crazy as they're listening to me, is that I think your business will go way farther, way faster if you do not look at a single message until noon, or at least lunchtime, if you eat early, whatever, right? I'm saying you do not answer a single email. You do not look at Slack. I'm positive I have a message from my VA in Slack right now, but it's 8:30 a.m., right? I'm not going to look at that message until at least noon. I've gotten it to a point where I'm not looking at any messages typically until like 2 or 3 p.m. because my energy will go and go and go in flow for as long as possible. I delay lunch until like 3 p.m. if I can, because when I eat food, I get a little bit tired, my energy goes down, right? And so when you have the energy, you want to use that energy to create something that will set you apart, to create something that will blow the doors off of your clients, like to create something that cannot be ignored. And that is really, 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 really hard work. And so what most people do is they reverse these. Doing is, emails, client work, all that sort of stuff, right? But the problem with that is they do all of those things and say they're really, they're really rigid, they're really good at being like, hey, I'm going to stop client work at noon and then I'm going to start creating stuff. The problem is you've just given your most high leverage, high level hours to somebody else for the first 4 hours of the day, 5 hours of the day. And in doing so, you are creating from a well that's already been pulled from, right? Whereas if you start every single day thinking about you, your ideas, your business, right? People think this is selfish. It is not, right? Because you are drawing from a well that is completely full. And in doing so, you will think faster, you will think clearer, you will think deeper, and that benefits these people. So, long story short, to just keep this really simple, if you are answering messages first thing in the morning, if you are doing client work before you start creating, I actually had an example of someone I talked to. He was saying his content wasn't hitting, and we're not working together or anything. I told him this message, right? His content wasn't hitting. And so my questions, having experience with this, started asking, okay, how do you start your day? Well, first I go on LinkedIn and I warm up the algorithm and I do a bunch of comments, blah, blah, blah. And then I do client work for like 3-4 hours. And then I have lunch. And then I check messages one more time. And then I start creating. Absolutely. Like almost every entrepreneur who is struggling right now is behaving that way. And it's just because you don't know. It's just because you have accepted this belief that if I do something for me first thing, I am selfish. And it's just not true. So let me be the first person, if you haven't heard this before, to say if you can get into mornings for creating, afternoons for doing, that's when you do your meetings, that's when you send your emails, that's when you do your client work, and then evenings for recharging, because the true business move is making sure you have full energy the following day, right? Don't be working till 8, 9, 10, 11 p.m. If you want to be Hormozy, good luck, but you're not, right? And so use this as an actual business move. If I rest, I will have energy tomorrow. Therefore, I can actually be fully productive, have my big ideas in the chamber, and go, right? Because doing does not get you nearly as far as creating. So prioritize creating. You are not selfish. You can freaking do this, okay? So recapping, go all the way to the front here. Time, if you can curate your calendar with colors and you can actually like dissect your meetings and saying, did that grow my energy? Was my energy neutral? Did my energy get drained from that meeting? If your energy is left neutral or drained, those are things like, can this be an email? Or at least can I send like a Loom video or something? Try and get rid of that meeting if possible, right? A VA, that's day one. If you don't think I'm serious, if you've had a VA and they weren't that good, if you're paying $30 an hour for your VA and you're you are not like absolutely, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing, or if you're just curious, protocol in the description. Grab it if you want, don't if you don't. I do not say life-changing lightly, right? I've had mine for over a year, and she is, I probably could give her more credit for helping my business than I have helped my business, because she's kept me in the right place, right? So flow, get your mornings right, get your afternoons right, get your evenings right. If you can get those, if you can get rid of the idea that I'm selfish if I go first, watch where your business goes, right? Like don't expect this to happen in weeks. Like I said, it took me 6 weeks to get into flow. Now I'm in flow 20 hours a week, right? There's a reason flow keeps coming up in all of this actual social media content, and all these big names entrepreneurs are talking about it, is because it freaking works. When you're in there, you are amazed at how deep and far you can go, right? So hope this video helps. You'll find everything you need in the description. If you want more from me, the best way is to message me the letters TGB on Instagram. You'll see that link in the description as well. And that'll kind of give you a full rundown and some resources, and way more than most people offer for free if you want. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.